Joining me now from Los Angeles is Elliot Kotek. He's founder and CEO of the Nation of Artists. Elliot, we met for the very first time more than a decade ago at the Sundance Film Festival. I know that you've been around the arts for a long, long time. How depressing is 2020?
Wow, 2020 has been a remarkable year, to say the least. And obviously, there have been recent successes in Los Angeles with some wins on the sporting fields with both the Lakers and the Dodgers. And so there are some things to draw from, but obviously, artists are doing it tough this year.
There was this piece in the Financial Times, it was back in March. The author is a Nigerian author and poet, and he said in the piece, "It is worth asking what the role of art is in these trying times." It struck me that this is a time when we need art more than ever. We need art to remind us of why life is worth living. We need it to reawaken our sense of the wonder of being, to remind us of our freedom, and to highlight the things in our culture that basically enable us to withstand dreaded times, which clearly this is. I want to get your thoughts on those comments.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why we're seeing such incredible numbers in both streaming, television, as well as live streaming of concerts. People like D-Nice, some of these talents that maybe weren't so well known pre-COVID, who had their setups and were able to launch things like Club Quarantine, that's had such remarkable success and has led to him teaming up with Will Smith on projects. Artists are selling merchandise. They're going back into the studio and taking these moments to re-record or record their next albums because they're at a position where they can't tour. And so we are seeing a lot of artists taking to live streaming, and some of them are doing it really well if they're able to adapt.
And that's the interesting thing. It's a creative field, which now really demands creativity, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And I know for us on the filmmaking side, we were really at the forefront of getting solutions out there, whether it's prepackaged kits that we were sending out to subjects to help film themselves and directing over Zoom, which is not ideal for intimacy's sake, obviously, that you're trying to get on camera. But it's been a kind of wonderful time in that people are trying to overcome these hurdles and get together as they do with the case of any sort of tragedy.
When do you see us turning the corner on this, and how will it change your industry, do you think?
Well, certainly from a theatre side, you have to kind of take the lead of Broadway in terms of live theatre. And as we just heard, they're not planning on starting back up until the end of May, start of June 2021, which is really a depressing thought. We've seen a lot of reports come out that unemployment in the performing arts industry is up at about 60%. Others are saying it's 25%, but certainly really high numbers. I think we're going to start having, obviously, more outdoor stuff here in California in particular, but we're heading into winter, unfortunately. So those of you on the East Coast, live music outdoors in a kind of socially distant way is a little harder to kind of give birth to have a renaissance. So I would say that spring 2021, when there's actually hopefully a vaccine in place that is being distributed, or really rapid tests where you can have tests at the venue that are delivered in minutes. And so you can decide who enters the venue. I think we're going to have to see those sorts of innovations come through before we can let people have those traditional mosh pits and hardcore rock concerts that so many of them love.
Elliot, briefly, if you can, before we let you go, I know you're buoyed by the Dodgers and the Lakers, but what are your friends saying in the industry? I mean, how are they keeping their spirits up?
Well, certainly it's just a case of hoping that there's additional relief packages. I know that there's a piece of legislation that was just introduced in the House as well called Save Our Stages, presented by Amy Klobuchar, who ran for president on the Democratic side, and John Cornyn, a Republican from Texas. So it's a bipartisan thing that's being supported. So people in the industry have really been creative. I've seen a lot of plays online. I've seen some beautiful classical music being performed online. I know there have been a lot of virtual fundraisers and things like that that are actually outperforming traditional fundraisers for performance artists like Third Coast Percussion, who normally would be touring year-round, but took their efforts to an online concert that raised quite a lot of money for them. So there are people that do have dedicated audiences. It's the ones, those nascent performers who had just booked a role in something and were hoping for that breakout. Those talent that don't have their audience yet baked in that are finding it the most difficult.
Yeah.